I was addicted to porn and gooning for 4 years, and it destroyed my life. I felt empty, guilty, and numb. I felt unconfident, and I just started to grow so much self-hate. I've now been able to quit gooning, quit porn for years at a time, and I truly believe I have figured out how to conquer lust. So this video will teach you what really happens when you stop gooning. It's going to be very in-depth, not just some basic, oh, you get more confidence, you feel more energized. No, we're going to explain what actually happens to your biology and the brain. So we're going to start the video off. Firstly, quitting gooning isn't a habit change. It's a system update. The brain, the body, your identity, they all go through this change. You're going to go through like withdrawals, and these withdrawals are turning into upgrades. So here's the timeline that nobody explains. Firstly, phase 1, the first 1 to 7 days. So the first 1 to 7 days, you're going through this, what I call the reboot shock. Your brain is so used to these massive dopamine spikes, which it is getting from watching porn and gooning on a regular basis, to where your brain has been completely fried. And what you're doing is you are cutting off these massive dopamine spikes from your brain, so your brain will start to feel numb. What's going to happen is your brain doesn't feel normal. It feels under rewarded because you're not feeding it this dopamine you used to feed it. So what you're going to notice the first 1 to 7 days is your boredom feels louder than usual. You feel extremely bored. Your motivation feels temporarily flat. You might feel empty. Life just feels naturally, it feels numb. Your urges show up strongest in silence. When you're bored, when your brain's not getting fed, what happens is every time, when a lot of people, they goon when they're bored. So your brain gets used to use it. What happens is neuroplasticity. So your brain starts to create new neurons, new neural pathways, that when you are bored, your brain automatically associates, okay, I need to goon. So what happens is when you want to try quitting gooning, is when you are bored, these urges are going to show up. You're going to be extremely tempted when you are bored. And your brain tries to convince itself that you feel lost sometimes. Your brain is going to try to tell you these lies of, oh, one last time, or it's normal to do, it's good to do. These are all lies that your brain, it's like that, you have the devil and the angel. It's the devil, right? This is your brain's the old loops, the old neural pathway it's created. It's trying to tempt you into giving into that cycle. So your brain will give you these, BS copes. Oh, one last time, it's not that bad, it's not going to hurt, it's good for you. All of this is completely wrong. And then the brain is in a dopamine debt, not dopamine healing. So the first 1 to 7 days, your brain is lacking that dopamine. It's not healing. So you're gonna have these, withdrawal symptoms. Biologically, your nervous system may still carry tension. You want to act, but your body hasn't fully released urgency yet. You'll think faster than you can execute. You're mentally affected, but there's also weird excitement that change is starting. So psychologically, shift is happening. You start realizing that these urges aren't you. They're momentum from the old system slowing you down. A lot happens in the mind, especially in the subconscious. What happens is your body starts to change mentally. You start viewing yourself differently, right? You start realizing that these urges aren't the real you. These urges are something that is coming from your biology, but it's not coming from like the true you. It's energy, right? So your identity crack forming. Eventually your identity will start to change. You stop saying, oh, I'm trying to quit. You start your subconscious. A lot of people, I like to give this example. For example, let's say you don't drink, right? If someone asks you for a drink, you're just gonna say, "Oh, I don't drink." It's like normal to you. I don't drink, so I'm never like, "Oh, I might drink." No, so I don't drink. When you can adopt that same mindset with gooning, it's so easy to quit. It's the mindset that I don't goon. It's not. Oh, I'm trying to quit. Oh, I'm 30 days free. I want to get to 60 days free, or any of these weird like milestones. It's no, I don't goon. So when the urge comes, when the opportunity enters your mind, you can say to your own self, oh, I don't goon, I don't do this. So you start to say to yourself, I don't live there anymore. That's where the reinvention begins, and you can actually reinvent yourself. Phase 2 is when you hit that 30-day mark. The 30-day mark is an extremely transformational area where things actually start to change. It's the baseline rebuild. So in your neurochemistry, by this point, the brain begins lowering its dopamine expectation. So you're not completely healed yet, but you're recalibrated. For example, you will notice that these small wins, right? You waking up early, you working on your business, it feels rewarding. And not in that weird dopamine where you're gooning or scrolling on TikTok rewarding. It's a serotonin rewarding where you feel genuine fulfillment, genuine happiness. And these small wins feel fulfilling, amazing. You can actually start tasks without mentally wrestling. You don't have to argue with, oh, am I doing the right thing? Oh, it's so hard to do. I know what I need to do, but I'm not doing it. No, it's natural. You're able to just do what you know is right. Your focus feels smoother. You're able to focus for longer hours. You'll be able to work for 8 hours at a time with any distractions, right? Because your dopamine baseline has reset back to where it should be. So these small wins, these acts in pursuing something, they hit your dopamine baseline so you feel fulfilled from doing them. And discipline becomes less expensive mentally. It takes less of a mental toll. It's more natural. You're naturally a more disciplined person. Your brain switches from dopamine prediction to dopamine production. What this means is you stop thinking about the reward and you start enjoying the act of actually stacking up progress. When you can train your brain's neurochemistry, primarily your dopamine, to be so addicted to that act of stacking progress of, okay, today I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., and then I'm going to instantly read, and then I'm instantly going to get sunlight, and then I'm going to fast till 5, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to work on my business. And you can addict it to, how can I make this the most productive day ever? That's when you're going to become extremely dangerous. Some social changes. Conversations feel easier. You can maybe talk to women better. You can hold more eye contact. You feel more emotionally connected when you're having conversations. Because one thing porn does is it trains your brain to view people not as human beings, to view people as objects. So when you can quit this, you're naturally going to be able to speak so much better. Your eye contact feels less threatening. You're able to hold eye contact in a natural way. You stop avoiding situations subconsciously. When you goon, you're going to be really tense, right? You're going to walk like, oh, what are people thinking about me? You're going to, be worried about other people's perceptions. You're going to be worried. You're going to be avoiding certain situations. But when you stop, your subconscious stops feeling that self-hatred, that unconfidence, and you can finally just naturally be confident and flow through life. Because confidence shows up in micro moments instead of huge, big, dopamine spikes. But internal reinvention is beginning to happen. You're no longer white-knuckling the habit. You're actually becoming someone who doesn't do that habit. You're outgrowing that old version of you who needed corn, who needed gooning, who was so addicted to it, who needed it to feel normal. And that's the 30-day mark is magic. It's not perfection, it's not hype, it's not complete mastery. It's just when you hit 30 days, there's less friction. There's more direction in where you're aiming with your life, and you just feel clearer, you feel lighter, your brain just feels better. Phase 3 is when you hit 90 days. This is what I call the identity migration. This is where the shift becomes completely undeniable. What happens to your mind? You think long term more naturally. Your mind, when you goon and when you watch corn, you program it to think short term. What feels good? What's going to give me the quickest hit of pleasure? But when you can quit for that 90-day mark, you start reprogramming your brain to think more long term. What can I do to set myself up for success? If I do this thing right now, will I feel good tomorrow? You start thinking in this delayed gratification way, not some short gratification, gooning. None of that. You start to plan without anxiety. You're able to flow through your task easier. You worry less. You're in this. You have more laminar flow, not turbulent flow. Ambition feels biological, not emotional. You naturally wake up with a purpose, a fire inside to create, to accomplish, to achieve. And it's not this weird emotional where some days you feel fired up and some days you feel numb and depressed, right? You no longer need dopamine to borrow confidence. You're naturally this confidence person. The biggest thing with semen retention is the reason why you get this confidence boost is because you're withholding from the most strong desire man has, and that shows your brain that you're capable of true discipline, and it builds true confidence. What happens to your body is your nervous system supports action now. Your nervous system is no longer stuck in, oh, I need to goon, or a state of fear. I don't want to goon. You're scared. Oh, what if I do goon, in this weird state? Your nervous system now supports raw action. It's calmer. It thinks clearer. You're acting in a state of abundance. You're not starving yourself mentally. Your breathing is calmer even when moving fast. You naturally are in a calmer state. You execute faster than you ruminate. So you're able to, instead of just sitting there and, oh, why did I do this? Why did I goon? Why did I watch corn? You're naturally able to execute. You're on to the task, next task, next task. You're extremely productive, and you get a lot of productive stuff done. Your urges are weaker, and your direction is stronger. You have less of an urge to goon or watch corn, but you have so much direction of what you want to accomplish in your life. Your life structure. Progress, you naturally start craving progress over stimulation. You stop thinking about how do I feel good, and instead, how do I feel fulfillment? You start thinking, how do I live my dream life, not how do I feel good for the next 60 seconds. You stop gooning. Naturally, when you stop gooning, this action of you stopping gooning is going to leak in other places of your life. You're going to stop doom scrolling. You're going to stop eating bad food. You're going to be more productive naturally. You wake up earlier. When you can stop the worst habit you have, for a lot of people it is gooning, watching porn, naturally all these other smaller habits start to decay and go away. You start craving momentum over distraction. You want to work hard. You don't want to be distracted. You might find yourself naturally hanging out less with people. You find yourself enjoying being alone more, working more. In your self-respect over quick dopamine hits, you respect yourself so much, you love yourself so much that you understand a quick dopamine hit is not worth it because you view yourself in such a high way. The emotional posture is failure stops feeling personal. It starts feeling like information again. You start viewing this failure not in an emotional way. Oh, I failed. I'm a loser. I'm these bad traits. No, I failed. Why did I fail? You start looking at it in a higher IQ, not this weird emotional state. You can say, okay, I failed. Let me analyze why I failed so I can succeed in the future. This is the key flip. You're not trying to be a better version of other people. You're becoming a better version of yourself without resistance from your past identity. You're able to actually grow without, having, I'll give an example. Bamboo will keep on growing. So you're able to grow like bamboo without having, let's say, like something holding you back. You're able to naturally grow because there's no resistance, which is stopping you from growing. For a lot of people, that resistance is their past identity. They view themselves poorly because of their past. Phase 4. This is where we hit 360 days. The effortless by default version is what I call this. This is the phase most people never reach because they think reinvention is some huge dramatic thing. It's not dramatic. It's not an overnight change. It's compounded internal alignment. What that means is over time you naturally internally are able to align yourself into that version of you who you always knew you were supposed to be. You were never meant to watch porn and goon, and you know that. Over the span of 360 days, and if you can quit, you have completely aligned yourself to who you're supposed to be. The neuroscience level of this is your dopamine baseline begins to rebuild. It is rebuilt. So you will all these benefits of the 30, 60, 90 day mark, they're completely at the fullest form. Your motivation is completely stable. You naturally have motivation levels due to your dopamine baseline being rebuilt. The urges are quiet. They might subtly appear, but you already have mastered how to deal with them. Your focus is so smooth. One thing I noticed is when I went 360 days, I really didn't have urges. I was talking to a girl. A little personal story. I was talking to a girl, and naturally I didn't want to have any lust with her. She wanted to, give into lust, give into these things, and it was weird. I just didn't have that like urge. My mind was, I was focused on the emotional connection with her. Like it was more of like a love than a lust. Like I didn't want to just give into sexual desire. That's one thing I really noticed at the 360-day mark, is like, 'cause that's when I started talking to this girl, and that was that was an issue in the end. Eventually we stopped talking because of that issue. I just didn't have like that. It's a good thing to have sometimes, but I didn't have that sexual prominent sexual energy. But yeah, you will notice that you just have less urges. You think more in a spiritual way of, how do I love someone? How do I stop giving into lust with someone? Discipline will feel natural. On a psychological level, your identity is solid. You are now a person who no longer goons, a person who no longer watches porn. So when if any urge comes, you're able to completely just not give in. Just like how you were, let's say, if you don't take weed. As if someone was like, "Oh, hey, do you want weed?" You're gonna say, "No, I don't smoke weed." It's that same identity shift, and your identity is solid, and you don't do this. The shame loop is dead. You no longer give into this cycle of shame. Because what happens with people goon is they get an urge, they give into the urge, they feel super guilty, super shameful, they say they're not going to do it again, and they do it again. Shame is the worst emotion a human being can feel. So it is so horrible that humans are feeling this on a daily basis due to gooning. So once you stop, the shame loop is completely dead. Your ego is unthreatened by feedback. You can get negative feedback, positive feedback, but it doesn't affect your self-identity, your ego. You're able to flow through it naturally and just think of it in that, of course, intellectual sense, not the emotional sense. Your confidence doesn't need hype. You don't have to hype yourself up. You don't have to look yourself in the mirror and say, I am confident, I am confident, I am a high-value man. No. You're just naturally confident because you have proved to yourself that you were able to conquer your own sexual desire. On an action level, work feels immersive. Your work just feels you're so immersed in yourself, in your craft. You're so addicted to your craft. How do I become at this best thing? For a lot of people follow me, it's probably business, entrepreneurship. How do I love it? I love working on my business. I love the craft of making more money, becoming more successful. You don't negotiate with your impulses. Like I said, when the urge comes, you don't say, "Oh, well, maybe I'll give in." No, it's a default thing to your brain at this point due to neuroplasticity in your neurons. It's like, "Oh, I just don't do this." So you don't even negotiate with it. You no longer defend your past self. You're not, you change, you have set your standards. Okay, so your standards are, okay, my past self, I'm not doing anything he did, because you have completely changed your standards. And you lean into your future self calmly. You're not frantic, you're not scared. You naturally lean into that future self, and every action you take is you thinking like your future self would. How do you set yourself up for your future? This is the final reinvention. You don't just stop gooning. You stop being a gooner. I love that. It's you stop having a gooner brain, right? It's where you look at everything like a gooner would. You become someone who moves without internal turbulence. I talk about this in the How to Achieve Success Effortlessly in detail. But you move without internal turbulence. You enjoy progress instead of sedating boredom. You act from clarity instead of force, and you respect yourself without needing dopamine spikes just to feel alive. Now, the timeline summary for your talk track, just to sum this all down for your level: 1 to 7 days, you have the dopamine shock. Your dopamine baseline is getting shocked. Your urges feel extremely loud. You're going to be having this, what I call porn brain, where you just think about porn and you just think about gooning, and your identity starts to crack. You might feel scared because you're trying to change your identity, and that's when the reinvention starts. Your mental agitation fades slowly. 30 days, that's when the baseline rebuilds, your dopamine baseline. Small rewards, working, going to the gym, it feels extremely rewarding and good again. Your discipline feels cheaper on your mind. It's easier to naturally be disciplined. A confidence micro boost shows up, so you start feeling more confident randomly. You're going to notice, like, maybe you'll go into a restaurant and you just naturally feel more confident. You'll notice that. 90 days, your identity is starting to completely migrate from that past self into your new self. Your nervous system is not living in fear, it's living in abundance that supports your ambition. Failure loses its emotional weight. You're no longer scared to fail due to, if I fail, I'm a loser. It's, no, if I fail, what did I do? What does the analytics show? How can I look at this intelligently? You start looking at failure as in the insights, not in an emotional way. Your direction outshines impulses. So you understand that you feel so directed to achieve this purpose, to achieve the best version of yourself, that when an impulse hits, when an urge hits, you just are able to settle with yourself and not give in. At 360 days, effortlessness becomes default. Your identity is completely solid. You are no longer someone who goons or watch porns. Your dopamine baseline is completely new, completely stable. You will notice it so much. Your action is immersive. You just naturally want to take action, and your self-respect is automatic. And what I want to talk about is the 360 days, man. It is so huge. Your brain just feels so pure. The best way I can explain it is when you hit 360 days, it's almost like that childlike purity where your brain is so fresh, it's so raw. You're not thinking in this like weird, perverted way. You just feel like a kid again. Life's exciting, it's exhilarating, and you view people as humans, not objects. I'm telling you, if you guys can just do what you need to do, make it to 360 days, I promise you it changes your life. And anyone who people like to comment on my videos and try to cope, oh, it's good for you. Anyone who says that hasn't made it to 360 days, so they don't know what actually happens. But finally, 2026 won't reward who you want to be in your notes. You can write down the goals, I'm not going to goon. No, it will reward who you trained yourself to become when the old you expired quietly. Effortlessness isn't laziness. It's what happens when your dopamine stabilizes from not gooning, your identity shifts from not gooning or watching porn, standards replace negotiation, your nervous system supports action, and that internal resistance, that fight you have internally, should I goon, should I not goon, you have this weird messed up head where you're your own mind's fighting itself. That's real reinvention. That's how you're actually going to change your life. So follow these steps, follow that timeline, and your entire life will change. You can also use the Rewired app. I created it. It's in my bio. It helps you stop gooning, stop watching porn. Great methods are in the app. My favorite, Light Therapy. But check out the app. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Peace out.